State number 2, Kawhi Leonard.
Gerald Green to inbound. Harden trying to get free. Down to 3, down to 2. It's a 3. Good! Good! He got it! James Harden, a flamethrower! Incredible shot!
That's what I'm talking about. That's what Thursday night on TNT should look like. What a night of games, you guys, that we're coming off of. We talked about them all day today. We're going to continue to talk about them tonight. I'm Allie LaForce, joined with Brendan Haywood and Steve Smith. Y'all ready to talk some
We ready, Allie?
We ready. We be ready. On Friday night, we stay ready.
Good. We're going to get to that OT
Oh, you bringing
game.
it back, huh? Little Pastor Troy? What you know about Pastor Troy, Allie? Okay.
See?
All right.
All right, so we're going to get to that game, but first some news. LeBron James, of course, suffered the groin strain on Christmas Day, and he's not going to play tonight, and he's also not going to go with the team on the 2-game road trip. He will be reevaluated in a week. Now the team is 1-3 without him. Of course, they're young and developing, and there's sort of two ways to look at this, right? I think at this point in the season, we're all saying, hey, can the Lakers still make the playoffs? And people are sort of, fading off of that thought, or you can just say this is a great opportunity for young players to really develop. So how do you guys look at this absence with LeBron James and the Lakers?
I look at it as almost a little bit of a danger time because they can't afford to keep losing games in the Western Conference because the Western Conference is so competitive and so tough. And you lose 2 or 3 games in a row, you can go from being in 4th place to being in 9th, and you can go from 9th to being in 12th really, really quickly. So to me, the Lakers have to have a sense of urgency. They have to find a way to play well, even though LeBron James isn't playing, and they have to win games. I don't worry about the development of these guys because when you develop when LeBron James isn't out there, it doesn't help the team as much. So if we see a guy like Brandon Ingram playing really well, getting to dominate the ball, that's not how he's going to play when LeBron James is there. So that doesn't mean quite as much to me personally.
Brendan, you said it best. Everything you said, I totally agree. The only one good thing is not that I disagree is I think for the Lakers management ownership, they get a chance to look at these guys and have a better evaluation. You said it best. You played a totally different way with LeBron James. Now you get a chance to see which guy, how does he play without LeBron James, and which one of these guys, because we all know, let's be real, that they're looking to trade some of these pieces, and I think that's a good chance for them.
So?
Who do you think?
I think so.
Who would you like to see be evaluator? If you would evaluate someone during this time, who would it be? Because I feel like, Brandon Ingram, we know what his potential is. We know what he can do. Josh Hart has been so consistent. Lonzo Ball does what he does.
That's the guy
who
for
are we
me.
looking at?
I mean,
Lonzo?
obviously, I'm going to evaluate all the guys if you're in that position, but I really want to see Lonzo Ball because of the way LeBron plays. His best attribute is passing, handling the basketball, running the show. And he doesn't get a chance to do that with LeBron. So now I'll get a chance to see him without LeBron James in the lineup.
For me, it's Brandon Ingram because last year I learned a lot about him. When Lonzo Ball went down, I realized Brandon Ingram's actually best when he has the ball in his hands. Now when you have Lonzo Ball and LeBron, Brandon Ingram doesn't quite get to play with the ball as much when both of those guys are out there. Only a 30% three-point shooter, and LeBron loves spacing. So I'm really interested to see how Brandon Ingram does because I think he has to show people that he has a lot more in his game, which he does. He's very versatile.
I thought Lonzo did a really good job of transitioning from 80 touches a game last season to just 50 with the additional LeBron James. And of course, when you have, the greatest player in modern history of all time, whatever you want to argue, you're not going to complain about getting 30 less touches per game. But we'll see about Brandon Ingram. All right, let's talk about the game last night, the overtime thriller.
Oh, yeah.
People have described it as epic and heroic and golden and throw all the words out there you want. I mean, we were itching for this game, especially this brings us into the conversation of just the stretch that the Rockets are on right now. You see how many people are contributing on their team, not just James like we talked about, but just a reminder, they're doing this with Chris Paul dealing with the hamstring injury, which I feel like is being overlooked.
Yeah, you're totally right. And now you got to give credit to Austin Rivers, who's kind of taking over the other ball handling duties and also other guys on their team. And I want to ask Brendan Haywood, because this is his area. We know Clint Capella's a guy who's great hands, dive, and dunk, but the numbers on the rebounding, that's not James Harden. Talk to me what he's done from the first couple of years to start to get these type of numbers.
I think the biggest thing for Clint Capella when you watch him, he's active. And you rarely see possessions that he takes off from a rebounding standpoint. He's always hitting the offensive glass. He's chasing the ball down. And I love rebounders that can rebound outside of their area. You played against guys like Kevin Garnett that were excellent at boxing out on one side of the rim and going and chasing the ball all the way to the other side. Those guys that are truly special rebounders, and that's why Clint Capella can rebound so well. He's a next-level athlete, and he has a really high motor.
And he keeps moving. And as a defender,
Yes.
do you want to chase a guy around all game and then into overtime? I mean, you have moments where you take breaks. And when you have an active player like that, that's when he can catch you just a few times a game. That can really make a difference. So James Harden, this sparks all sorts of conversation about where he stands as the best offensive player of all time and in the MVP race. And our own Roz Gold tweeted, she said, I asked James Harden if he consciously is hungry for winning another MVP. And he said, I need it. I need it for sure. And I'm going to get it.
I love it. Love it.
You guys believe it?
I love it.
You know, and obviously Brendan said the best, and we all know that when we were, talking our meeting. You got to win games to be the MVP, and so that means he has to understand that he's going to elevate his team to get back to at least 3 in the Western Conference to have a conversation to get there. And the numbers he's putting up, though, right now, he's jumped up to that ladder for me as number 1 as of right now.
I love the comment. Now James does have a lot of haters. There's a lot of people that hate James Harden for some reason.
Well, I'm not going to lie. When he sits there on camera and says, you're witnessing greatness, how can you not tell that you're watching greatness? And I don't want to misquote him, but I get a little bit put off by it. And I love confidence. I love watching Joel Embiid talk trash. I love that part of the game. I think it's so fun. But there is a part of his confidence that irks me a little bit when I watch it. It's just a natural instinct.
I don't think that it's all cockiness. I think he's tired of hearing about people talking about other things besides these numbers and the win streak. James Harden is winning basketball games, scoring 45 nights in a row, 35 or better, 9 nights in a row. That's incredibly hard to do. And all we have is some people that get up on set and talk about how many times he gets fouled, his usage, he dominates the ball. Guess what? Who else do you want to dominate the ball? If James Harden isn't shooting it, do you want Clint Capella creating his own shots? No, you do not. James Harden is playing great. His team is winning right now, and he says that because he's mad that too many people are taking the focus off the fact I'm playing excellent. I've played my way back into the MVP race, and all people want to talk about is how many times I get fouled. So I don't mind the comments, and I also think his comments about MVP get misconstrued. A lot of people think that means he also doesn't want to win a title. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Just because he said he wants to be MVP doesn't mean he doesn't want to be an NBA champion as well.
For me, he's getting fouled.
Yes.
I mean, he creates the contact, and for me,
Stop fouling.
The one thing is impressed me is, I've played in the league, you play in the league, Brendan, to be able to take that many hits and still have that much left to be able to knock down threes with that. You talk about a guy, even though he creates a lot of space, he's getting doubled, he's getting tripled. He has to beat his guy when he drives and beat the second and third guy. And to be able to do that and shoot 90, 89, 90% and also be able to carry the team, it's phenomenal what we're watching right now.
Well, it's one thing to do it now before the All-Star break. But as we've seen in the past, he runs out of fume late in the playoffs because of the usage, because of the hits, because of the amount of minutes. As a coach, as a teammate, as James Harden, how do you manage being ready and being elite in the postseason, but also knowing I have to carry my team out of this funk the way we started the season, and I do want to play at MVP level?
I don't think you can manage it. The Western Conference isn't somewhere where you can say, hey, we're going to manage your nights, we're going to manage your reps, we're going to manage your usage.
Unless you're, in the past, unless you're Golden State.
Yeah, Golden State can do that. They have 4 studs. Houston, it's James Harden. He's a one-man band. Last night, that was like watching old school Batman with Adam West take on the Joker, the Penguin, and all his bullies. That's what it was like. And so James Harden really can't afford to sit out games, or he can't afford to have low usage, because do you want Daniel House creating his own shots? No. Do you want to give Gerald Green the ball 15, 17 times a game? No. You want the ball in James Harden's hands. With Chris Paul out, they have to give him high usage. Will he do it in the playoffs? I don't know. But James Harden we might be witnessing the greatest regular season run in a 2 to 3 year span that we've ever seen from the 2-guard position.
And I totally agree. I think the one thing he should do and he must do, Brendan, to get over that hump in the playoffs, he's going to have to trust his teammates more. And his usage is going to be still the same thing, and you're going to have to empower those guys. Because if they have guys making 13, 14 points from Austin Rivers, Gerald Green has to be consistent. Daniel House has to be consistent. Austin Rivers has to be consistent. If he can get those guys to where they believe and they're going to trust in him, and he does get it off pass it a lot, just got to make sure they keep making shots, because if they're making shots, you can't double him, and he will have a tough out if he does that.
He has had his playoff faults, and so he's had it's a timeline from OKC up until now where you looked at him sometimes in the playoffs and you've kind of squinting your eye. But in the regular season, hasn't been too many better than Big Game James these last 3 years. I'm just going to tell you that. Oh, yeah. In the regular season, James Harden, hard to guard that guy.
It's very hard. So let's transition this conversation quickly just into Golden State. Blown out on Christmas Day. They've lost 3 at home now. Just inconsistency that we're not used to seeing over the last 2 months. Your thoughts on the inconsistency?
You know, the one spot we kind of nitpick over the years has been a center spot. But they used to have it done by committee, whether it was Zaza Pachulia, whether it was David West, whether it was JaVale McGee. This is the one area right now they are missing the young guy Jones, Damian Jones, where they don't have a lot of guys in that middle, and they're starting to play small ball, and it's catching up to them. They are missing Boogie Cousins, and they also missing Damian Jones. In my opinion, that's the one area where they're also not as good, and I think also they've been to the playoffs and the finals 4 years. It's just got to wait. They're going to be measured by playoffs versus regular season.
I think it's the combination of the two things you just said. I think it's, first of all, the 5 spot is a sore spot for them. The boogeyman is coming, and they need him. JaVale McGee was big for this team last year, especially in the playoffs. They don't have him right now. Draymond Green has not played well. That's something that you have to talk about. But then when you look at the Bulls and their 2 3-peats, the last year on those 3-peats were the years they won the least amount of games in the regular season. And that just comes because when you go on those runs, it just wears on you.
Yeah.
It wears on you physically, it wears on you mentally. And sometimes the Golden State Warriors probably don't come out with the right mindset for certain regular season games. But best believe you me, when the playoffs start, they'll be there.
All right, guys, we have a lot of other games to get to, mostly tonight's games now that we've
Nice game. We're gonna talk about
I know, right?
Okay.
Do we have to move on? They better be as good as Thursday night. I don't think so.
I love this.
Grizzlies getting ready to take on the Nets. A little pregame photo action going on.
Hey, Grizzlies got a lot of fight in them. They're going to come out fighting tonight.
Selfie. We'll talk Grizzlies.
They're a little
Nets
handsy over
coming
there.
up after
Hey, the Grizzlies got a lot of fight in that team.
Welcome back, everybody, to Game Time Live. The Nets and the Grizzlies are one of the games that we'll be talking about later tonight. But wow, have the Grizzlies been struggling. They've lost 14 of their last 20 after starting off 12-5. They take on the Nets, who have won 10 of their last 13, so 2 teams trending in the opposite directions. And you can see how they've worked their way down on the Western Conference standings. We have a lot of questions about what's going on in Memphis. There have been trades, there has been drama, there has been locker room fights, and we bring in our good friend who we can't think of a better person to bring in, especially when it comes to the dysfunction, as you were the one to break some news recently. Amari Sankofa. Amari, thank you so much for joining us and letting us pick your brain about Memphis right now.
No, absolutely. Happy to be on.
Okay, so we'll get to the locker room fight and all the drama going on there. But first, let's get to the news, which is the fact that the team acquired Bulls guard Justin Holiday for Wayne Sheldon and Marshawn Brooks, plus 2 future second-round picks. What's been the reaction, and what's your take on the recent move?
The reaction's been mixed. I think a lot of people are caught up on the 2 second-round picks, 2019 and 2020, which for a team that, as you touched on, has been on a downward spiral. They're 6-14, I believe, since Thanksgiving. Obviously, you don't want to lose any draft picks, but they did get the best player in the deal. Justin Holiday is a really good 3-point shooter, which has been a weakness for this team. And it's a win-now move, which, some people may say that that's where this team should be doing. Some people may disagree, but they feel that they are a playoff team, and they were 12-5 at one point, so they're just trying to get back to that point.
Question, this is Steve Smith. We've had the scuffle we heard about, but from your vantage point, you've been around teams, you've seen locker rooms, and we've all seen this. Adversity happens. How have they handled it? In my opinion, just reading, I'm not there, but Garrett Temple spoke about it. He had accountability. JB had accountability. In your opinion, how have the Memphis Grizzlies, as an organization and the players and coaches, how have they handled this adversity?
I think they've all been determined to move on from it. Garrett Temple, he accepted responsibility for his actions. Rick Hasby did the same. Garrett Temple, he did have a quote yesterday that kind of alluded to the fact that, every team that tries to win games, plays at a high level, they deal with. He estimated 75% of locker rooms at some point probably have some sort of altercation of that sort. And in this case, you have to address it publicly because it leaked. But it seems like everybody's on the same page. They're trying to move on. I guess we'll just see how they respond tonight after, something like that becomes known, and now you have to kind of face the world and explain why it happened.
Brendan Haywood here. Garrett Temple and Marquez, was it a real fight? Was it pushing? Because there's 2 types of fights in locker rooms. There's guys getting in each other's face, and there's actual punches being thrown, bodies being thrown around the locker room. What type of altercation are we talking about here, and how is the team responding? Is the team divided? Where do they sit with this?
Sounds like some punches were thrown. it doesn't sound like it was a fight that went on for an extended period of time. They were separated, but some punches were definitely thrown, and but something like that happens, you obviously question what that does to the team from a chemistry standpoint. This is a team that they've said all the right things throughout the season, just as far as making sure that everybody's on the same page, and they refer to each other as brothers. JB Bickerstaff earlier in the season said this is one of the best groups he's been around, and of course he is the son of a coach in Bernie, so he's seen a lot of locker rooms as well. It's again, they've said the right things, and it's tough to say how it's going to affect them, but it's a veteran locker room of guys who have seen just about everything. So you would think that if there's a team that can get past it, it's probably a team such as this.
Real quick, Amari, who won?
I don't know. I wish I knew. I wish I knew. I couldn't even tell you.
Amari, you follow that team. You know who won that fight.
Yeah, just say you don't want to say it, but you know who won.
Who hit and who got hit? Just tell us that.
I honestly don't know. I would say Omri Caspi has some reach. He's a little bit bigger. It's tough to say because they're both mellow guys. They're not the types of guys we'd expect to get into a fight. But I mean, if there's a tape out there or something, I guess maybe that gets leaked too. Who knows?
So earlier this year, when Draymond Green and Kevin Durant got into it, punches weren't thrown, but there was so much talk about how did it start? What were the words that were said? And of course, free agency had to do with it. How did this one start?
So it sounds like there was debate. Well, they had a team conversation, and guys were going back and forth, just talking about some of the issues that they had been having in the past few weeks and how you get past that. And Garrett Temple brought up some issues he had with the bench, just how they carry themselves on the sideline, and I'm sure something about how the bench has played as a whole, because that's been a weak point some nights. And Omri Caspi took exception to that. Garrett Temple starts, of course, and Omri Caspi is a bench player, and sounds like it just kind of escalated from there.
And then the last question we have for you is Chandler Parsons. He says he's ready to play. He says he's medically cleared. Clearly, ownership and the coaching staff has a different idea of when they want him to return. What's the latest and what's the update on his potential return and sort of the miscommunication that's going on?
Yeah, so Chandler Parsons has been healthy for the past couple of weeks. And the team, he's been a healthy and active since then. He's, alluded on social media, some cryptic tweets here and there about how frustrated he is. And if you scroll through his Twitter likes, you kind of see the same thing. He's been liking a lot of responses of people who want to see him on the court. I think the difficult thing for the Grizzlies is figuring out what exactly he can bring to the team at this time. He did play the first 3 games. He didn't really shoot the ball very well. And then at the 4 spots, you have Jaren Jackson, who's been one of the best rookies in the NBA this season. You have JaMychal Green, who's been a really good backup bench player. Kyle Anderson's getting minutes at that position. It's just a question of how does he help the Grizzlies now? And because the Grizzlies are winning games, it's kind of tough to figure out exactly, where Chandler factors in. If he can shoot, he can absolutely help this team because offensively they've had some issues, and it'll just be interesting to see how this progresses going forward.
Well, hey, Amari, it was great talking to you. Thanks so much for the inside scoop.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.